are continuing in Christian apologetics. We are now getting into Genesis chapter 10. This is called the Table of Nations. We have done chapter 5, which is the genealogies going from Adam to Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, chapter 10 is taking us from Shem, Ham, and Japheth and their descendants and where they ended up. We have what's commonly known as the Table of Nations. And each one of these will have populations that are going all over the place. And of course, that they won't split up until after Babel. So chapter 10 actually tells us the things before Babel and the things after Babel. In 11 verses 1 through 9, it tells us what happened at Babel and how everyone went into various places of the earth. They broke up, they left and went wherever they wanted to go, and just ended up wherever they ended up. And so we will start with Acts 17, beginning in verse 26. And he has made from one blood every nation of men to dwell on all the face of the earth, and has determined their pre-appointed times and the boundaries of their dwellings. And we see where this happens in Babel. He is referring to Babel, where this started. This didn't start until there was a significant population. You can't really do this with just 8 people. And coming off the ark, this is going to begin at Babel, where they are of one blood, and we continue to be of one blood, and that there are nations, and we will begin to have centralized governments in certain places. It's not that everybody will necessarily have a king, but some will. Now, some are going to be in smaller groups, and in those groups they're going to have someone like a king that is there, and they're going to be dividing up. Now, verse 27, so that they should seek the Lord in the hope that they might grope for Him and find Him, though He is not far from each one of us. When Paul says that, he's talking about everybody. He's talking about in the ancient past and currently when he says this to the Athenians. He means this, that everyone was supposed to be looking for Him. Everyone was supposed, and He's not far from any one of us. He's not saying us as in the apostles or even the Jews. Us meant His listeners as well, who are just they're Athenians. And now we're going to look at the genealogy, and this is Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the Table of Nations. These are the sons of Noah. And so we start off in verse 1. Now this is the genealogy, the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and sons were born to them after the flood. So there was no son born on the ark. It's all after the flood when this occurs. All right, so we begin with Japheth. The sons of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. Every name given in here has their descendants are going to start nations, individual places with their own languages that would have been dealt out at Babel. They would have no control over that. And so you have that of Gomer, Magog. Magog, of course, you'd recognize that name probably from Revelation chapter 20 and verse 8, mentioning him. It's also in Ezekiel 38 and 39. And Magog it is believed to be the Scythians. Scythians were horsemen of the ancient world. They are mentioned in the New Testament, neither barbarian nor Scythian, slave nor free. All right, barbarian would have been individuals in the in the in the Roman Empire that could not speak Greek. That's what that term barbarian meant. But something like a Scythian, that's wild people on the hinterlands. That's people beyond your knowledge. And they probably would have been, no, the Scythians were in Ukraine, what is modern day Ukraine. You have Madai, that's the Medes. Javan is Greek, that is Greece. And we'll get more on that in just a little bit. Tubal, that's the Iberians. That would be the northern part of Spain as opposed to the southern part. Meshech, Cappadocia, and Tyrus, this would be the Etruscans. The Etruscans, they were on the Italian peninsula. They're not Romans. Latins are a different group than the Etruscans, but the Etruscans joined in within, we're talking about a lot later. Now, this is what I want you to understand. Do not think these people didn't intermix, because that's what people do. They will do that. And never think that you are pure Shem or pure Ham or pure some I know are Hams, or pure Japheth. Okay? Don't think you are, because there is a mixing of, you may have all three in you. Because people, you can't predict what your ancestors did or where they came from. You can't predict it at all. Matter of fact, you really don't want to be 100% one thing or another. You're better off if you are a mix, which most of us, and I do mean most of us, are. You don't, just as we might say, a mutt, not something that is just a thoroughbred, but a mutt, just a mix of everything. And that is, genetically, that's a healthier way to go about it. You can't help what you are, though. Anyhow, there is a mixing, and I'm going to show you there is a mixing. There is a mixing in all this, because we're talking about people living side by side in many places, and they will begin to mix, even though they would have a different language coming out of Babel. You give it a century or two, they're going to be adjusted to each other. Matter of fact, it may be less than a century, and they will be adjusted to each other. It's just that at Babel, all of a sudden, it's a new concept, everybody's speaking a different language. Okay, that's going to take a while to begin to figure that out. And it was such a traumatic thing, everybody leaves. And according to archaeology, Babel was abandoned for about 200 years. They do know where Babel is. And it was, according to archaeology, it was abandoned for 200 years, probably because it was just seen as a cursed place, probably. And you don't want to go back there. And they know this because they have found remnants. They have found things there from the time of Babel, and then all of a sudden it disappears. There is no settlement there anymore. There is no city there anymore. Okay, so we have, let's continue on. This is Japheth. The sons of Gomer were Ashkenaz. Those two are of the Scythians. Those two are in that group. They will mix. You have Riphath. That is the Paphlagonia. That's on Turkey on the Black Sea. You have Togarmah, which those are Phrygians. They're central west Turkey. The sons of Javan were Elisha, that's Cyprus. Tarshish, that's Spain. That's probably the southern part of Spain, as opposed to the Iberian part. This is the southern part. You have Kittim, that is Cyprus. Dodanim, that's Rhodes. And we have these. from these, the coastland peoples of the Gentiles were separated into their lands, everyone according to his language, according to the families of their nations. So, yeah, they are going across the Mediterranean and all the way over to Spain, as a matter of fact, but also up into places such as the Caucasus Mountains and up in there around the Black Sea. Now, we go to Ham. The sons of Ham were Cush. That's Sudan or southern Egypt. And there will be more than one people who are in Egypt. This would be Upper Egypt. Southern Egypt is Upper Egypt. Mizraim, that's Egypt. Put, that's Libya. Canaan, that's the Canaanites. All the Canaanites are going to be from Canaan. And this is the one who Noah cursed there in Genesis chapter 9. Noah cursed him. And here's another thing. We've talked about that when we have that part of Noah's life where he has a vineyard, we talked about that had to be several years after the flood. It's not just immediate. It's not like they're camping out now next to the ark and voila, he's got a bunch of grapes. But here we know it's more than that, because one, grapes don't just pop up so quickly. They take a few years, about 4 years. But also Canaan is the fourth son of Ham. So it's going to take a while. There's a few years here. 4 years, maybe. Maybe it could be done less than 4 years, obviously. But we have some time in this. And yeah, we're going to have the Canaanites from them. And that's all of this is setting up some things. We're going to show this diagrammed in a bit. This being diagrammed. All these are being set up for what's coming down the line. Things that we need to know. Is it important to know about Tarshish? Well, yeah, because we're going to have Tarshish later on. They're not going to be major, but we'll know where they came from later on in the Old Testament. The sons of Cush were Seba, Havilah, that's southern Arabia, Sabta, Raama, and Sabtacha. And the sons of Rama were Sheba, that's Yemen, and Dedan, northwestern Arabia. Not all of these do I know where they went or what they were. Cush begot Nimrod. Now, this is someone of note because everyone gets a small mention. But Nimrod gets, I think it's 8 verses just on him. And we don't even know the names of his sons. We don't know. Nimrod is significant. He's significant. He is somebody in this time period because Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore, it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. Now, we have to ask the question, like, who said? Who said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord? The people of Nimrod's day? Maybe. But if it's just the people of Nimrod's day, why bring it up now? He just said a mighty hunter before the Lord. Now he's saying there's a saying to it. Why mention it? Except they're still saying it. It would have to be that the Hebrews did have this saying. It'd have to be. And let me just say this as well. That the Hebrew people, when Moses is writing Genesis, that the Hebrew people had to have known about some things. They had to have known about a flood. They wouldn't have known the details that are going to be given by way of inspiration. They would have known about the flood. They would have known about Babel. They would have known about Abraham. All right? They would have known all about that. If they didn't, they would be the only ones who didn't know about the flood and Babel and Abraham. They would be the only ones who didn't, because the Egyptians are writing about it. Others are writing about it. They're writing about what happened at Babel. They're writing what happened concerning the flood. And of course the Egyptians, they met Abraham. But that's not as big for them. That's not as big of a deal as the flood in Babel. Everybody would have known these things. And here is a saying coming from this age that would have been up in the age of where you have of Exodus, after they have left Egypt and they're in the wilderness. They had to have still been saying this, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. Genesis chapter 10, verse 10. And the beginning of his kingdom, that is Nimrod, was Babel. He is the first king mentioned in the Bible. It's Nimrod. Were there kings prior to the flood? Don't know. Probably. But I don't know. The likelihood is yes. But this is the first one mentioned. And what occurred before the flood, we get in just a few verses there in chapter. Everything from chapter 1 is before the flood, but I'm talking about the wickedness and the great things that occurred before then. We just hear about it. We don't get names. We don't get specific deeds that occurred, but all of that would have been known by 8 people who would have passed it along. They would have. If suddenly this world that we're on had nobody but you and a bunch of kids, and those being born that had never knew what this world had been, you're going to tell them. You will definitely tell them what the world was like before everything changed. And so he is the king of Babel. The beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, and there's another way that is spelled in another language. It's Uruk, Akkad, Calneh, and the land in the land of Shinar. From that land he went to Assyria and built Nineveh, Rehoboth-ur, Calah, and Rezin between Nineveh and Calah. That is the principal city. In all of this, there is a reason all of this has been given concerning Nimrod. This has nothing to do with naming any of his sons or anyone like that, but it has to do with him being an extraordinary man. I'm not saying he's good, because I'm not sure that he was. The idea of making Babel the place to be probably was his idea. If it wasn't his idea, he was fine with it. He was good with it. To be king over the entire population of the earth, yeah, there's a temptation in that. But here's what he did. Babel doesn't go very well, but he continues on. And he's relentless. He doesn't stop. I guess cream rises to the top. What if that's good cream or not, I don't know. But he is building these things. In Nineveh is a very ancient city. When Jonah is told to go to it, centuries later, Nineveh is described as great and it's described as wicked, and its background goes all the way to Nimrod, which predates Abram by a bit. It predates Abram. Okay, so we come to verse 13. Mizraim begot Ludim, that's Libya, Anamim, that's possibly Egypt, Lehabim, that's more of another section of Libya, Naphtahim, that's Lower Egypt, that's the northern side of it. Pathrusim, Upper Egypt. Casluhim, from whom came the Philistines, and the Caphtorim. So I didn't have to, that one's explained for us. That if you, Casluhim is where we get the Philistines. And of course, that's going to come in later. We're now introduced to these nations. Canaan begot Sidon, that's the Phoenicians, his firstborn, Sidon his firstborn, and Heth. The sons of Heth are found in Hebron. In Genesis 23:3, when Abraham is buying a place to bury Sarah. He's talking to the sons of Heth there. The Jebusite, they occupied what we refer to as Jerusalem. The Amorite, the Girgashite, the Hivite, the Arkite, and the Sinite. All those came from Canaan. It's all being set up for us so that we understand these nations and where they came from. The Arvadite, the Zamorite, the Hamathite. Afterwards, the families of the Canaanites were dispersed. So they have gone into their various borders and boundaries. And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon as you go toward Gerar, as far as Gaza. Then as you go toward Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboam, as far as Lasha. Well, there we go. These were the sons of Ham, according to their families, according to their languages, in their lands and in their nations. All right? This has got to be after Babel, in their languages. This is where, as everybody departed out of there. And children were born also to Shem, the father of all the children of Eber. Eber is pointed out for a reason. Eber, you may be able to hear a word in that name, because that is where we get the name Hebrew. He is the father of all the Hebrews. So Shem, the brother of Japheth the elder. We spoke about that this morning, concerning that Shem, Ham, and Japheth were not triplets, that you have Japheth, who is called the elder. You have Ham, who Noah calls, actually the Bible refers to Ham as Noah's younger son, not youngest, but younger son. And Shem turned 100 years old 2 years after the flood. Whereas from Genesis chapter 5, one would think that all three of them were triplets and at 100 years before the flood, meaning they would all be 100 years old when the flood arrived. But Scripture tells us that Shem was 100 years old 2 years after the flood and had Arphaxad. Okay, now, the sons of Shem were Elam, that's northwest Iran. Asher, that's Assyrians, the Assyrians in this. And here's what I mean when we're talking about a mixing of people. Who just built Nineveh? Who do we find that built Nineveh? Nimrod. Nimrod is whose son? He's the son of Cush, the son of Ham. He builds Nineveh. Nineveh in time will become the capital of Assyria. But the Assyrians are coming from Asher. And at times, Assyria is called Asher at times in the Old Testament. And we have Arphaxad is probably the Chaldeans. Lud is Lydia, that's western Turkey. And Aram, that's Syria. The sons of Aram were Uz. That is actually the home of Job in the land of Uz. Not the land of Oz, not the Maryhill land of Oz. This is in the land of Uz. Hul is Armenia. Gether is Bactrian. That's far eastern Iran. And Mash is Syria as opposed to Assyria. Arphaxad, Chaldeans, begot Salah, and Salah begot Eber. Eber is where we get the word Hebrew. To Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg. This is the line, his line is going to lead to Abraham, but we're not following that line just yet. That'll be in chapter 11. For in his days the earth was divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. All right, so Eber has a son, Peleg, and he's named that because the earth was divided in his days. That would have meant about the time that he was born, Peleg was born, what would have happened? Babel, yeah, that's exactly right. And so he receives the name from that. It would be bad to name him Babel, but Peleg, because in those days the earth was divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. We're going to follow Joktan. Joktan is not a line that goes to Abraham. Joktan begot Almadad, Sheleph, Hazarmaveth, Jerah, Hadoram, Uzal, Dikla, Obal, Abimael, Sheba. Of course, we know Queen of Sheba centuries later. Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. And their dwelling place was from Mesha as you go toward Shafar, the mountains of the east. These were the sons, mountains of the east. That would be way down the line, way down, going east in Iran. These were the sons of Shem according to their families, according to their languages, and their lands according to their nations. These were the families of the sons of Noah according to their generations and their nations, and from these nations were divided on earth. From these nations were divided on the earth after the flood. Okay, now I want to look at these genealogies in more of a graphic form, is what we're doing. Okay, so we have Gomer. This is not everyone here, not everyone being named, are we going to know their sons. From Japheth, only two of his, and it's Gomer and Javan. All right, and these are the coastland peoples of the Gentiles. And we're going to look at Javan in just a second, like right now. Okay, Japheth in the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament, 250 BC, that's when it was done. It was done in Alexandria, Egypt. And what I'm about to tell you, I didn't make this up. This is things that Josephus believed and wrote in his day. And it was evidently well known in his day. He's recording it. Okay, Japheth in the Septuagint is Epheth. The Greeks don't have J's. It's Epheth. That's in the Septuagint. Iapetos is a Greek titan. And Japheth fully believed. And Iapetos was a kind of a father to, from him came the Greek people. And Josephus believed that Iapetos is actually a corrupted version of Japheth. That they remembered it had been passed down who their great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was. And it's now being twisted from being that father into this titan in their mythology. Okay? And so it looks like this. You have Javan is the son of Japheth, and that word Javan, that name Javan, is the Hebrew word for the Greek. It is the Hebrew word, and there it is. Yawan is how it's pronounced. And we see that Alexander the Great, not named by name, but the king of Greece in Daniel 8:21 actually is the king of Yawan, or Javan. they did have that name meaning the Greek people. They kept that. And Iones, Iowan is Javan. You have Iones, that is another version of Javan. That's the Ionians. Ion is the father of the Greek. And now we have Ham. With Ham, we only have two of his sons, to begin with in all this. We'll see more in just a second. We have coming from Cush, Siva, Havilah, Sabta, and then Nimrod down here. Nimrod is not naming, it names his achievements, but not his children at all. You have Sheba and Dedan, you have Mizraim, and all of these, including the beginnings of the Philistines. And this is a better way to put it. It's the same thing. This is clearer, I hope. It all may be mud to you. But yeah, I hope that you can see this. But from Canaan, you have the Jebusite, Amorite, Girgashite, and all that going to the Hamathite. The families of the Canaanites were in all of that. This is concerning Babel. I'm sorry, it's concerning Nimrod. Babel, Erech. Urek is, that's how it's written in Sumerian. Akkad, Sumerian is a very ancient language. Akkad, Akkadian, that is another language. It comes later. Yes, languages change now. I am sure that the first language could change as well from generation to generation. Of course it could, just like ours does. Languages live. But Akkadian comes into being. And Nineveh becomes the capital of Assyria. Assyrians are descendants of Asher, a son of Shem. The ancient people did mix. They did mix. Like we saw with those that had settled in Upper Egypt, those that had settled in Lower Egypt, they would all in time become Egyptians. They would all join together under, I know that there had been two pharaohs basically, and then a joining of upper and lower, and you have one pharaoh. Now, here's just a thing concerning Asher. This is Numbers 24, beginning in verse 21. Then he looked on the Kenites and took up his oracle and said, this is actually Balaam saying this, firm is your dwelling place and your nest is set in the rock. Nevertheless, Cain shall be burned. How long until Asher carries you away captive? All right, Asher would be the Assyrians. And in that day, the Assyrians wouldn't have been, Asher would not have been much to worry about, I don't think. And not like it would be later. And now we have that of Nimrod, first king and kingdom mentioned in the Bible, and these all belong to him. And then we have Shem, father of Eber, Elam, Asher, Arphaxad, Lud, Abram, and from 1 Chronicles 1:17, it also adds Uz, Hul, Gether, Meshech, which those actually are not his sons, they are descendants. We see here where we have Arphaxad, Salah, Eber, then Joktan. Peleg is not mentioned, or his descendants aren't mentioned just yet. They will be in chapter 11. Joktan, it moves on, and from Joktan we have all of these various peoples and where they were. And some of these are very interesting. Ophir, in 1 Kings 9:28, Solomon is sending ships to Ophir to get something. What is it? Do you remember? It's to get gold. And they come back with a lot of gold from Ophir. Havilah is mentioned in Genesis 2:11. The rivers, you have 4 rivers coming out of Eden. One flows through Havilah where there is much gold, and the gold there is good. And of course, it's using, Moses would be using names that they understood. Havilah would not be Havilah for many, many years, but the gold would be there. Now, we just want to look at some noted names and why they are noted. I know you cannot read this. I realize that. But this is all Nimrod right here. This is Nimrod. Usually, you just have a mention. The sons of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Usually, that's what you get. But over here, you have Shem, the father of the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth the elder. Shem that is given a special mention in all this. And then Arphaxad begot Salah, Salah begot Eber. To Eber were born 2 sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his day the earth was divided. These are special notes in all this, and they're noted for a reason. They're not just listed, but they're notes there that are named for a reason, and here they are. And Nimrod, because of the great things that he did, and in the days of Moses, the Nimrod may not have, Nimrod had been made into a legend. By the time Moses gets around, Nimrod was very much a legend and had been passed around for quite a number of centuries, going from, I guess, around the days of Nimrod or perhaps after his days. The oldest writing, the oldest poem, epic poem that we have, and that is the Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is Nimrod. Nimrod was the king of Erech, and in Sumerian it's Uruk. Yeah, Gilgamesh is the king of Uruk. Nimrod is the king of Erech. It's the same people in the same place. We're going to need to call it an evening. And I want to thank everybody for being here. And hopefully next week we can continue.